Okay, my optimal training week. Now, I will do this in the middle of a training schedule, but this is an exact session that I did, an exact week of sessions that I did in order to run 2 hours 21 for the marathon, and then literally 4 weeks later, run 100K in 6 hours 42. And I'm gonna break down every single day for you, and what you'll be able to see is about 4 differences of what I do differently to a typical athlete, what I do differently to what you'll read in books, etc. I don't think I do anything too crazy, but I'm just focused on getting the absolute most of the sessions so that I can be as efficient as I possibly can with my running, so I can move forward as far and as fast as I possibly can. So Mondays, recovery run. 40 minutes recovery run, incredibly light, 3 to 5 minutes walking, and then I'll start the 40-minute recovery run. The sole purpose is to go slow, not even to look at pace, but to think about effort. If you know your zones, I'm staying in zone 1, and by the end of that, I want to feel fresher than I did at the start. I want to make sure that the long run the day before on the Sunday, that's soaked in and I feel good, and that's in the AM. So first thing in the morning, and all my recovery runs and easy runs, I run them fasted. I'm hydrated, but I don't take in any calories. No food or sports drink before or during the run for my recovery runs and my easy runs. That evening, so at least 6 hours later, that's my big strength session. So in that big strength session, I'm really hitting the glutes, the hamstrings, the big power muscles that are gonna propel you forward and make a bigger stride length. I'm hitting the quads, I'm hitting the lower legs. And the purpose of that session is to propel myself forward further and become a more robust athlete. So if you look after your strength and it's a key fixture in your week, it's gonna look after your body and make you more consistent through the season and make your progressions bigger, but also more consistent as well. And from that session as well, I'm also hitting the core, and I'll just do core twice per week. And then the next day, it's just an easy run. A little bit further than the recovery run, it's 50 minutes, it's an easy run. It starts in very much the same way as the recovery run. I'm just going super slow. I'm walking for the first 3 to 5 minutes, checking out the body again. How was the recovery run? Have I accelerated that recovery from the long run on the Sunday? And then I'm getting to a point during that easy run, I'm not really looking at pace. I'm staying in my zone 1, and I'm going a little bit into zone 2. And by the end of that easy run, I want to do 10 times 80 meters accelerations in the pace or around about the pace that I want to be running the reps in the day after in the interval session. Really important, so just 10 to 80 meters. It's not taking too much out of my body, but it's a concentrated effort at the end of the easy run, and then I'm gonna cool down as if I've done an interval session. So I'm gonna cool down and gradually, over the course of a kilometer or 1.2 kilometers, get progressively slower to a jog and then a walk. So I put myself in a really good position to run fast in the interval session the next day on the Wednesday. But either immediately after that easy run or later in the day as a second session, usually after a siesta, I'll be 50 kilometers on the bike. And for me, that's usually about 1 hour 35 to 1 hour 40. And these bike sessions, of which I do 3 per week, are boosting my overall aerobic capacity, boosting my overall engine. So I'll either do that immediately after the easy run on the Tuesday or later on in the day, in the same way that I do my strength session on a Monday, 6 hours later. It's usually about that length of time, 4 to 6 hours before I hop on the bike and do 50 kilometers on the bike. And again, it's about 100 minutes or about 1 hour 40. And then the big session of the week is the interval session. So it's just a standalone session. I don't do anything else that day. And I'm attacking that interval session like it's a race. So I'm eating the right foods the night before as if it's a race the day after. I'm practicing with the day before nutrition in order to be energized to hit this interval session as well as I possibly can. I'm treating it like a race. There's a level of anxiety there. There's a level of nervousness, good nerves, that make me want to hit that because I know it's a really good indicator of where I'm at that point and what I need to do in order to get myself in PB shape, ready to run whatever it is you're training for, whether it's 5K, 10K, or a marathon or an ultra marathon. Really important. So the breakfast is exactly the same. So 1 hour before, I'm having 5 bananas, blended in water, and that's going in, metabolizing really quickly, and it's exactly the same as the race day breakfast. And then during the session, I'm taking a gel every 20 minutes, or I'm taking 80 grams of carbohydrate per hour in a Morton 320 mix. And that's throughout the interval session and the long run as well. So those 2 sessions are fueled exactly the same as race day. So not only am I practicing so my stomach is aware of what's gonna happen on race day, there's no shocks or surprises, but I'm also preventing that level of muscle breakdown, that level of muscle damage that you get from a heavy interval session or a heavy long run. Super important, because what it means is over the weeks and months, you can push harder on those sessions and gain more super compensation. And that's what we're all about. We're all about moving forward. So that interval session will be 20 times 400 meters. Typically, that interval session for this week was 20 times 400 meters. And what I'm aiming at on that session, I'm thinking about marathon pace, and I need to run 2 hours 20. And for that, it's 3:19 per kilometer. So let's say 3:20, which is exactly 10 times 20 seconds. So I want to run 10% faster at least for these 400 meter reps, ideally a little bit quicker. But what I'm thinking is I prefer consistency over the 3 months versus running a really quick 20 times 400 meters, getting it right, but it takes too many days in order for me to recover to hit the long run hard again. So I want that session to be really controlled. So usually those 400 meter reps will be between 65 and 70 seconds. Around 68 to 70 seconds is my perfect spot. And that brings you at a pace just under 255 or 250 per kilometer for a kilometer, which puts me in a really nice place to run a lot of volume, 8,000 meters volume, 20 times 400 meters. And I'm doing it at least 10% or more faster than marathon pace. So it makes marathon pace feel easier for my long runs and easier when I'm gonna race the marathon. Really, really, really important. I'm gonna add the warm up for that session, about 2 kilometers, 2.5 kilometers, and about 1.5 kilometers cooling down. Total overall session is 12 kilometers, but it's really important during the warm up that I'm getting my body primed to run as fast as I possibly can for those 20 times 400 meters. It's really important for me to get that right, and literally I treat it like race day. It's even more important for me to get those sessions right than the way that I feel on race morning, because this is the hard work, and once you've done the hard work and you've got 3 months of hard work behind you, then race day is very, very easy. And that's how you should think about it. The process is actually the difficult part. Race day is just a celebration. And if you think that way, which is the way I think, then it takes the pressure off on race day. You know you're competitive enough with yourself or with everybody else that you're gonna give your best. It's just about doing the hard work. So it's that consistency, it's that discipline, it's that dedication and the patience, which is the most important, super important. And the Thursday is a rest day. So I don't do any running, any cycling. All I'm doing in the PM, so I have a nice lie-in, I'm treating my body really well. So I'm eating all the right foods, drinking a lot of water, lots of electrolytes. I'm treating my body really well so it can accelerate the recovery. And that evening, I'm doing a core session again. So I'm really hitting the lower abs, especially the obliques and the lower back. And what that's gonna do with the other strength session where I hit the core on the Monday is gonna make strong core, which is gonna keep my style nice and strong in the latter stages of a marathon and especially 100K. Really, really, really important. And then the Friday is another recovery run. Exactly the same as Monday, 40 minutes recovery, has the interval session soaked in. Did I get enough out of that? Did I do the right amount of work? Did I do too much work? Do I need to go super slow on that? If that needs to be a walk, so be it. The most important thing is you've done the big session. And over the weeks and the months and the years, what you're going to get used to is how much is too much in that interval session and the other key session. How much can you push it in order to stress the body so that it can handle more the next time? And what is overdoing it so that you cannot do that recovery run on the Friday? Remember, there's a day in between. So it's Wednesday interval session, Thursday is a rest day with a bit of core in the evening, and then Friday the recovery run. And then as soon as I finish that recovery run, I'm gonna hop on the bike again and do 50K on the bike, and that's about 1 hour 40 again. So overall in the week, I'm doing 3 bike sessions, all 50K each. And then it's a Saturday, and it's an easy run again. Easy run, 50 minutes. And again, exactly the same as the Tuesday. What I'm looking at from that is I'm starting it in exactly the same way as the recovery run. Walking 3 to 5 minutes, and then starting the easy run. Starting a 50-minute easy run, not thinking about pace. Most of it is in zone 1, and then towards the end of the run, I'm doing my accelerations again to the pace, 10 times 80 meters to the pace that I'm going to run the fastest section in the long run the day after. Incredibly important. And then immediately after that, I either hop on the bike and do another 50K, or I wait until later on in the day and do as a kind of second session PM, 50K on the bike. And that's usually 6 hours or 4 to 6 hours afterwards again. And then Sunday, long run. So for me, it's the second most important session of the week. The 20 times 400 meters, the interval session is the most important, but the long run, I've got to get super compensation from that. So I've got to put myself in a good place. I've got to be well recovered. I've got to eat all the right foods. So again, as I said earlier on, the breakfast is exactly the same as it would be on race day. 5 bananas, blended in water, 1 hour before I'm starting the session. And then the night before, I'm eating exactly the same food. So it's usually sweet potato, that kind of heavy carbohydrate, superfoods, in order to put myself in a really good position to hit the long run hard. And a typical long run, and this long run was 5 kilometers at 4 minutes pace. So that's 20% slower than my marathon pace. And then 15 kilometers at marathon pace, 3:20 per kilometer, and then 5 kilometers at 4 minutes pace, 20% slower than marathon pace. So a total of 25 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 15 kilometers at marathon pace, 5 kilometers at 4 minutes per kilometer pace, so 20% slower. What I get from that, together with a strong warm-up, again, it's 2 kilometers warming up, there's no shock for my system. I'm not struggling for the first 5 kilometers at 4 minute pace. My legs feel nice and zippy. I've looked after my body, both the way that I've trained, the way that I've eaten and drank all week, so I'm able to hit these sessions as hard as I can. And what I get from that is a lot of volume, so 15 kilometers at marathon pace, but the total session of 25 kilometers is setting me up really nicely for the next weeks, where I'll be doing 28 kilometers, 30 kilometers, 32, 33 kilometers, 35 kilometers onwards from there. And I will go up to marathon distance or before, marathon distance or longer before I run the marathon. So it's really important for me to box off that session, and then afterwards, and after all these runs, I'm treating my body really well. So immediately, within 10 to 15 minutes of finishing, even before the cool down, I'm getting at least 100 grams of carbohydrates in me. And again, it's something like a banana smoothie. Maybe it's got oat milk in this time, it's got some seeds, it's got some protein. Definitely going to get protein, a heavy protein meal in within 4 hours of the session, but the immediate important thing is within 10 to 15 minutes, get that level of carbohydrates. So you've got plenty of sugar, you're restocking the glycogen, and within that long run, you're treating your body exactly the same as you do on race day. So it's the same breakfast, it's a gel every 20 minutes or your sports drink every 10 to 15 minutes. Whatever you're going to be doing on race day, you're doing exactly the same in your long run. So there's no surprises come race day. Your interval session and your long run are fueled exactly the same as you're going to treat your body on race day. No surprises. You're putting yourself in a really good place. Now, what I will say is that I've built up to that week, and it's part of the bigger picture of 13 weeks specific towards the marathon. And this was a strange build-up because I had the marathon and then 4 weeks later the 100K. So I had to do some longer stuff. So although that was a 25K long run, I'm building up to marathon and beyond in order to run the marathon and then the 100K later. So it's a bit of a strange build-up, but this was part of the build-up, and it comes in a weeks where I'm building up to that, and then afterwards I'm going a little bit further, putting a little bit extra on the interval session, but not much more than 8K, and I'm putting a little bit more on the long run as well. I'm getting myself to a really good point. And as I said, you've got to treat your body really well. So sleep is your priority number one. Reduce stress is probably joint number one. And again, nutrition, you've got to be feeding yourself the right foods, looking after your body, and hydrating at every possible point that you can, and making sure you're getting the right electrolytes and the right supplements in. Good luck.